What's going on, guys? My name is Steve. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to Why You Won't Survive British Special Forces Training. It's been a while since I've done any British military related videos on this channel, but it's definitely a topic I want to explore a bit more going forward. I think the last British military training video I checked out was the British Army doing bayonet training, which was really interesting. But I've never seen any videos that have to do with what happens during Special Forces boot camp particularly. And so that's why I wanted to check this out, because I believe this is the actual boot camp that they're talking about. But the description says, today we're going to put you into boot camp for the British Special Air Service, or SAS. I have learned a little bit about the SAS in the past in some video. I can't remember exactly what video that was, but anyways, to see if you have what it takes to survive this brutal military training. This intensive program pushes candidates to their extreme limits in order to see if they have what it takes to become an elite defender of England. Am I wrong in thinking that these guys would basically be there to protect the UK as a whole and not just England? Let me know in the comments, guys, but I believe these would be, they would be working to protect the entirety of the UK. In today's video, we're going to give you a first-hand look at just how crazy the training is to become part of the Special Air Service. All right, guys, this sounds really interesting. So let's just go ahead and dive in and check out why you won't survive British Special Forces training.
Special Air Service, Britain's original Special Forces, and the granddaddy
they're the
of all
first
modern
Special
Forces. The SAS is the benchmark by which every other Special Forces unit is measured, and their tactics and training methods have been replicated all over the world. The history of the SAS begins in the deserts of World War II, and their feats of daring are the stuff of legend and continue to this day in the global war on terrorism. One of the toughest Special Forces outfits in the world to enter into, the SAS requires the absolute best out of every recruit. Many apply each year to join this legendary service, and many fail and are washed out of training. What about you, though? Think you've got what it takes to join the elite SAS? SAS selection takes place across several phases of selection, with Selection Phase 1, known as Endurance, taking place over 3 grueling weeks. Any dummy can be physically fit and carry a heavy pack, but Selection Phase 1 will weed out the dumb brutes and leave behind only the mentally and physically strong. For Phase 1, you'll head out to the countryside in South Wales, but don't expect a picnic, because you'll immediately be put to marching across varying routes. Initially, you'll carry a pack loaded up with the essential gear, such as a rain poncho, sleeping bag, first aid kit, and distress flares. Though you can expect that as the distance you're forced to march increases, so does the weight. You'll carry your food with you too, which consists of some bread rolls, a few Mars candy bars, and potato chips, along with a 24-hour ration pack that can only be opened in an emergency. Forced to march endlessly.
That's interesting. The Mars candy bar, is that just for morale purposes? That sounds like that would be a good morale booster when you're going through that type of training. I'm curious, guys. He said a lot of people didn't get accepted into the Special Forces, which obviously I know that's the case with like the Navy SEALs and other Special Forces here in the U.S. What is the acceptance rate for people to even be able to give this a shot, if you understand what I'm saying? And I'm curious how many people actually survive the training itself. I'm guessing it's probably pretty slim, which is why these people are, why these Special Forces soldiers are so elite.
Low on food and sleep, this phase isn't just testing your physical fitness, but your mental fitness as well. Unlike in most other Special Forces candidate programs, here you won't have to deal with instructors screaming at you and breathing down your neck. Instead, SAS instructors purposefully leave you completely to your own devices, offering no encouragement, but no chastisement either.
Wow. Okay, so that's interesting. Okay, because I've seen, I've looked at like different boot camp stuff within the U.S. before. Never looked into any of this stuff within the UK. And it's true, like when it comes to U.S. boot camp, it's always a bunch of screaming and yelling and whatnot, getting them under severe stress from that constant screaming. This is different, though. This is actually more in line with, you need to be a self-starter. You need to be able to motivate yourself instead of having an outside force to motivate you. And that's what I gather from this. That's interesting.
will pass or fail completely of your own volition.
Wow.
And you better be good at disciplining temptation too, because while you may be starving, opening up that 24-hour emergency ration pack without permission is grounds for rejection. Attention to detail is critical for an SAS soldier.
Wow.
So as long as you're trying to drag yourself through another day-long march on your blistered feet, you should expect instructors to occasionally quiz you about landmarks you may have just passed. The purpose is to test your alertness and see how well you can pay attention while physically miserable.
Oh, wow. So basically, you are tired, you're hungry, you can't open the ration pack without approval, it sounds like. And it's going to be tempting because it's right there for you. I wonder if the Mars bars and stuff is part of it. I guess so. You can't go and grab that Mars bar without permission, maybe? Let me know in the comments. That's what it sounded like. But basically, you're tired, you're hungry, you're very exhausted physically and mentally, obviously. And, in those situations, it's very hard to stay aware of your surroundings as much as if you were like, wide awake and not tired and whatnot. So, but you've got to somehow remember to keep alert to the point that you remember different landmarks and things that you may be quizzed on at a later time. Wow.
Candidate said he was asked how many supports were on a bridge he had just crossed over during his march.
Wow.
Eventually, you'll face the final test, a
That's
grueling
crazy.
40-mile march up and down hills, carrying 55 pounds of gear and an assault rifle to boot.
Wow.
Not only will you have to accurately navigate your own course, but you'll only have 22 hours to complete the course. Failure means your application process is over.
Wait, so they're completely alone. Hold on, I got to go back, guys. That's what it sounds like. I mean, they're going to do this as a 40-mile hike, and they're completely alone. Do you have the ability to go with someone else, or is it just you just have to go alone? That's interesting. Like that's completely different than what I would have expected. This is literally making sure that you are definitely someone who can motivate yourself and you are a self-starter. That is what I'm really seeing with this. And obviously, the fact that you can, bring yourself through lots of physical exertion and, the tiredness and what stuff and still be tested mentally. I want to see that again. Hold on 1 second.
Final test, a grueling 40-mile march up and down hills, carrying 55 pounds of gear and an assault rifle to boot. Not only will you have to accurately navigate your own course, but you'll only have 22 hours to complete the course. Failure means your application process is over, and you'll return to your home unit. Just because you passed, though, don't expect that you're on to the next official phase, because instructors will have been carefully evaluating you the entire time. If they suspect you aren't the right stuff, it won't matter how fast you completed your course or how much weight you can carry. You'll be rejected and sent back to your home unit.
Wow. So sorry for pausing so much, guys. This is really interesting and different than what I expected. So obviously they are judging you the whole time, right? They're paying attention to what you're doing and they're quizzing you and all that. So they're not with you though during the majority of this. They're just at different like checkpoints or something, it sounds like. I'm not really sure if I'm understanding exactly what he's saying here, but it really sounds like you guys are kind of alone when you're going through this training. Let me know in the comments, guys.
Out of 200 candidates, only around 30 to 40 will make it past this phase and move on to the next phase, jungle training. Like most of SAS's training, the exact details of what goes on in the jungle phase are classified. What is known, though, is that trainees will learn jungle survival skills, as well as how to conduct patrols deep behind enemy lines and live off the land for weeks at a time. Trainees will learn how to operate as a four-man unit and live on rations, remaining undetected as they carry out their mission. A strong emphasis on physical fitness will also see trainees hit the gym every day, and after the gym there will be a great deal of time spent out on the range. There you'll learn how to operate standard bits of SAS gear, to include battle rifles, recoilless rifles, grenade launchers, and light machine guns. Trainees will also learn how to operate many other weapons in use across the world. An SAS soldier must know how to pick up a weapon in a foreign battlefield and use it effectively if he needs to. You'll also undergo training on setting up ambushes as well as responding to enemy ambushes. You'll be trained in advanced scouting techniques and how to observe your environment for subtle changes that could signal a hidden enemy patrol or a sniper perched and waiting. Detecting changes in color, shadows, or even small movements can mean the difference between life and death for an SAS operative deep behind enemy lines. As with many other Special Forces training programs, you'll also learn advanced defensive driving techniques.
Seriously?
Enabling a quick getaway in any hostile situation. These are many of the same techniques that police
Defensive driving? Okay, that is another thing I wouldn't have expected with some sort of Special Forces training. I've never heard of that before. So I'm curious, what kind of vehicle do they have you driving when you're practicing defensive driving techniques? Is it some sort of like just common car, or is it some sort of military vehicle? I'm guessing it's some sort of military vehicle, but he just had this car sitting here, and I was just curious if it is some sort of car or something.
Use for stopping speeding drivers, but you'll learn how to avoid those same techniques and not be stopped yourself. We hope you like blowing things up, because you'll also be learning how to handle a variety of explosives, and because explosions typically mean wounded, you'll receive extensive medical training that can be quickly deployed out in the field. One of the most important jobs that Special Forces operators do in war is reconnaissance, and so you'll learn how to establish listening posts and observation posts, and covertly observe an enemy. To aid you in your mission, you'll learn how to use a variety of secure communications gear, such as satellite radios, and how to avoid getting pinned down by the enemy due to your electronic emissions. Lastly, you'll undergo extensive hand-to-hand and close-quarters combat techniques and become an expert in breaching and assaulting enemy structures. To make it to the end of this phase, you'll be amongst the 15 to 20 who didn't get sick from the jungle environment and drop out, or weren't washed out by instructors. Don't start congratulating yourself yet though, because the ultimate test is coming up next. Part 1 of your final test is a 3-day escape and evasion course. You'll be given a ratty old coat, boots that may be held together with only strings, and no food or water. You'll have a short head start and must evade capture for 3 days by a hunter force equipped with dogs and modern equipment.
What?
For these 3 days, you must live off the land while evading your pursuers. And though officially you're barred from entering any structures, some crafty trainees may sneak their way into a civilian property and maybe even have a local take them in. As with most Special Forces tests, cheating is simply another creative way of accomplishing the required objective, as long as you aren't caught, that is. The second part of your final test will take place when you're captured or at the end of the
That makes sense though, because if you were in the real life situation of that, you would be doing whatever you could to survive, and so and escape capture, and so you would try to get help from the locals and stuff like that. So it makes sense that they would allow that in training.
Days. If you've managed to avoid capture, then you'll be expected to return to a designated location at the end of the 3rd day. Once there, you'll be handcuffed, have a bag thrown over your head, and be taken to a remote location. Instructors will then attempt to break you down mentally. You'll be placed in stress positions and forced to hold them for hours at a time. You may be locked in a cage the size of a dog kennel, while instructors bash the roof of it with chains. Instructors will strip you nude in front of female instructors who will mock the size of your manhood. It's all a mental game, meant to soften you up.
Are you serious? What? Wow. Okay. And that's another thing I wouldn't have expected in in training like this.
The pending interrogation sessions. After enough humiliation and mental torture, you'll be thrown into a room with an interrogator, and your job will be to only reveal the big 4 to him or her: your name, rank, serial number, and date of birth. Giving the interrogator any information other than that will lead to your immediate expulsion from SAS training. That's it, the end of the line for you. If you make it through this final phase, then you can feel proud of accomplishing what very few people have ever done. You'll receive the beige beret with the winged dagger insignia and officially become a member of the British Special Air Service. However, maybe celebrate modestly, because you'll be on probation until you finish your continuation training, and sadly, many soldiers are returned to their home unit during this phase. If that happens to you, you'll at least have worn the beret for a short time, and that's an
Wow. So you go through all that, and then you have probation for a period of time. How long is the probation for? And you're still in some sort of boot camp situation here, right? I wonder why people that have made it through all that then fell in the boot camp phase. You would feel like the boot camp phase that we saw before this moment right here was very hard, and I can't imagine you made it through all that, and then you fell in this other segment here. I don't know what's going on in this. I can't imagine it's harder than what we just went through, though. That's crazy. Wow, guys, that these guys are elite. Wow. I mean, you know, I've seen, like I said, I've seen some different training videos, what goes on in certain, like with the Navy SEALs a little bit and whatnot here in the U.S. But this is the first time I've seen any sort of video about like the full on what happens during some sort of a British Special Forces training or boot camp, or even British Army in general boot camp. This is obviously different from just the regular British Army boot camp. This is Special Forces boot camp, but this is incredible. This is so much more in depth than I would have ever imagined. And a number of things just popped out. They were like stuff that I would have never guessed they would have in Special Forces training, you know, like stripping someone and then having the female soldiers laugh at them. Like, I can understand what they're doing though. They're trying to break these, see if these people will break mentally. And they've already tried to break them physically at that point. So now they're trying to break them mentally. And you really have to have someone be able to survive all of that to really have the most elite soldiers within this most elite group. And it totally makes sense, but I just would have never imagined that. And the driving thing is interesting, but I can see why that would be needed on occasion. You know, they need to get away from someone really quickly. And so they need to know how to do defensive driving like that. But this was incredible, guys. Like I said, these people are obviously, and I'm sure you guys that know about the British Special Forces, the SAS here, what exactly were they called? The British Special Air Service. SAS. Is this part of the British Air Force? I'm guessing it is. But it's interesting. Wow. This is crazy. I would love to see more videos like this. I would like to see like some actual footage of training maybe. This gave me a really good overview of what supposedly happens during the British Special Forces training. Please let me know in the comments if you or someone that you know have gone through this, and is what is described here accurate? Because if so, these guys go through a lot. I mean, like, the physical stuff is like, okay, you know, a lot of the special forces go through that. And a lot of special forces also go through mental training as well. But I'm just sitting there putting you in the cages and stripping you and all that stuff is like, wow, that's intense. That's intense. And I can see why they are so elite, because very, very few people could actually survive the physical and then the mental aspects of that. I mean, I think that this takes it's a very, very rare breed of soldier that could actually go and go through all this and come out on the other end, you know, perfectly, but and become one of the Special Air Forces soldiers. But yeah, guys, really enjoyed this. Please let me know in the comments. Like I said, if you have anything that you would like to share about this or British military stuff in general, because I really haven't looked at a lot of British military stuff. A few videos here or there, but it's something I definitely want to learn more about. Like I said, I don't know a ton about the British military, and so feel free to drop anything in the comments that you think I might be interested in checking out. But thank you so much for stopping by, guys. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow me on my journey to discover my British and Irish ancestry. Until next time, guys. Peace.